we're going to go through some things, but first I want to make sure that I had some audio issues recently. So can you guys just give me a little feedback in chat if you can hear me at all, or too loud, too little, or something like that, and then we can just get right underway. Look at my sound creations here. Yes, yes, yes. How about now? Can you guys hear me okay? Yes? No? Chris, thank you, sir. I'm going to keep you on my Christmas card list. Thank you. So how is the levels okay? All right, good, because I want to get right into it, but I don't know what it is. I took my laptop away. Everything was fine, and then I hooked it back up last night, and I had some issues with the other video. But thank you, P-Man, my boy Jason, for letting me know. And Chris, of course. Thank you, Chris. So what's going on, everybody? My name is Doc. I am a independent trader, just like all of us. I like to search around and find the best tools. One that I'm in absolute love with is QTA, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. QTA stands for Quant Trading App. So go ahead and put that in your browser. You're going to fall in love with it after today. No, just kidding. But that's where we're going to be focusing a lot here today. But I'm going to pull up the technical chart just so we can go over what we're looking at here. This is the quant chart. This is these use proprietary calculations and levels to see where the hidden levels are, or as Bryant, the creator of QTA, calls it, it's like using X-ray specs. And it's a perfect analogy, because here we have tech, and anyone that knows me, like Kevin, he should be in here because today was his idea. K Lynn in the house, Queens living it up. So technical analysis is my absolute love, and anyone who knows me knows that I have just a couple lines, especially when it comes on something NVIDIA. Each line has a value. Each color represents something. The dash represents something that I'm looking for it to break. The green is either an entry or an exit. Obviously, the trends are what they are. But the thing with technical analysis is that I use this reference a lot. At a seminar I was at, there was, say, 25 people, and I gave out 25 sheets of paper, and I said, give us just a rough estimate on what you think. I think it was Tesla. What you think of the trend on Tesla. I got back 28 versions. A few people actually flipped the paper over and gave another viewpoint on it. So technical analysis is an art and a science. When you're dealing with quantitative method calculations, this is cold hard math. And the good thing is this is not stemming from the options table, which will you'll get GEX or gamma exposure and those type of things. So this adds an extra layer of confluence onto what we're doing. Oh, okay, Jeremy, thanks. Jeremy, I've seen you around town in the QTA public area. Thanks for that. So I guess, yeah, just to subscribe to start chatting, because there are a lot of bots that come around. You might see me in Discord that they impersonate some people, and then they try to scam you. So same thing happens in YouTube. They come in here and they advertise, webcams for such and such naughty things, and that's fine if you like that sort of thing. Nothing wrong with that. But not the place for his. So I think just hit subscribe, and then you can go chat away. So what I usually look at is, I usually work in the top 5 and the SPYs and the Qs. So we're looking at Tesla, Microsoft, SPY, NVIDIA, Qs, Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft. I'm watching Microsoft today, and I'll get into my theory on why. First of all, technically, we are reaching, or we're at a level of support, right? And we'll ease into what's going on. If you guys have questions on certain tickers, I'll definitely pull that up. But I just wanted to start off with what kind of sparked this live action, along with my buddy Caitlin, who is like, hey, you want to go live today? I'm free all day. I said, all right, let's do it, son. Let's do it. So the green line here was an entry for me on Microsoft. I added to that position today. I was going to wait for it to maybe come down and touch max pain, which I think was the 422.50. But it found this new support here. We had a break. Let's get on the 15. We can see it a little better. So anytime you want to see a level break and retest, that's a positive thing for continuance. And what do I mean by continuance is if we were to come up to this level and get rejected, okay, we can play the rejection as it passes max pain. If it were to break that level, you want to see a break and a retest of a level. That level could have been the max pain. If you think of it that way, come back, break it, and retest it here. But the next retest was the VWAP and also laid down this new level of support. Fast forward into today, it touched it again 2 times. On the second touch, I added to that position, which is, I'm not going to get into specifics. I do not want anyone to follow exactly what I do. I want to stress that. And by the way, everything we're talking about today could be considered paper trading. How's that? Nice blanket covering everything. Everything we're talking about is to be traded with paper, fake money. But everything is entertainment. Take everything we say as a grain of salt. Blah, 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 and we'll all be fine. So I took that position as a potential to go higher. I'm looking at just the technical analysis. I see 427.28, sorry, as the high of the day, and also a possible for 428.67 as another high. I don't know why I drew 430. Okay, so I went back even further. So maybe we'll add another line here. And after I go over these lines, I'm going to start using other tools to find confluence, which will either confirm or negate my theory. So what is my theory right now? My theory, or my plan, is that Microsoft will attempt to move up to the new high of day, trying to get a newer high of day, and it potentially throughout the week looking to retest this high, this recent high that was like last week or a couple weeks ago. So now that I have that theory, we have the VWAP to get over. If we get rejected at the VWAP again, I'll close the position and say that's a failure and try again another time. But I'm playing to the VWAP. Once that's breaking, I might add more to it. This is, again, just the way I trade. I'm not telling you guys to do your own thing, but just trying to get my thinking of it into it. What's up, Styles? DK Styles in the house. So you can play a break of a level and the continuance, but if you have a thinking that if we have a bounce here and we're going to play the break of the VWAP, you can get in with paper trading a small amount. So say 25% of your allotted risk, you can play to the VWAP, and then when you get into your full position, you'll have some part of that position on a discount, right? Does that make sense? So if our play was, okay, we're going to bounce here, and when it breaks VWAP, we're going to play it up to there. That's cool. So if we get in 25% here, we ride this up, we're already in profit, and then when we add to that position, we'll have a lower average than if we had just added right here. If this fails at the VWAP, no harm, no foul, we get out of that position and we make a small profit with paper trading on just this move alone. So this is a strategy that you can do, especially in 0 DTE, because you're trying to capitalize on one move, right? We don't want to, especially with SPY or Qs, when you're doing with expirations that end that day, we want to get in on one move and one move alone. We don't want to mess around with rejections and testing and maybe a pullback in here and there, one move alone. With Microsoft being a Friday expiration, we have a little more play, a little more leeway. So if we don't get our full 425 or 430 goal, we can assess at the end of the day, trim risk, leave some overnight, yada, yada, yada. Also, keep in mind at 3 o'clock, we're all going to take a break. We're all going to go outside and look up. There's supposed to be some type of event going on, and we're going to just, look at it with our naked. No, we're not going to do that. Totally kidding. Do not take that as seriousness. I'm not even going to look at it, even if I have those special goggles, because I don't trust who makes it. Okay, and some of them, they look like I have better luck just holding tissue paper over my eyes. And I can see it on TV. I recommend you do the same. But If you're not here for financial advice, you're not here for a total eclipse. I'm not going to sing that song. I'm not going to sing it. I'm not going to sing it. You're not here for eclipse advice either. So that's the play on Microsoft. Why did I come up with that? Well, I got a clue, like I said, about the bounces on this technical support here. That's when I go to our trusty quant chart, and I'm going to slide this over so I can monitor it. This is the volume profile. I'm going to kill that like so. And before I go any further, let me... Actually, I'll just get that from up here. I know there's a lot of trading platforms out there. You might recognize the one that I'm using now, but if you don't, it's called WeBull. And if you're interested in getting what I have up here, I'll put a link in chat eventually. Use that link, you get some free fractional shares, blah, 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 if you put in $1 or something like that. But, so, I look at building a trade or getting into a trade like a detective building a case to hand over to the DA. You can find a clue on your technical analysis chart. You can find a clue from fundamentals, whatever it is, but you want to build a case. You don't want to just trade on one clue, right? You don't watch Law and Order and they say, you know what, I found the murder weapon at Joey's house. Joey, you know, we're going to put you on trial. They have to find other supporting evidence, right? So that's what our job is. And that's what trading should be. Trading should be finding enough supporting evidence to gather the enough conviction and confidence to place a trade out there. So the first clue was finding support at 423.30. And I'm curious if this touched how much off it was. So 6 cents. So we built a new high, a new higher low by 6 cents. That sounds good, right? We could check the RSI. The RSI is climbing a little. That matches up. This is a little bit divergence on the MACD. We'll see how that plays out. And the vortex indicator is crossing the blue, crossing over the gold. We'll get into that at another time. But we want to find more clues, right? Okay, Doc, you said we want to find more clues. Where do we find more clues? If you're using quant trading app, we can use the quant chart. Now, again, this uses proprietary calculations based off of the 2 sigma rule, and I'll find that in a second. Why can't I find Microsoft? Why am I... Okay, sorry. I'm telling you, this eclipse, it's got my brain chemistry all bamboozled. So, quant trading chart uses levels like a buy zone right here, the green level, a sell zone on the top, the midpoint in between, the intraday, these are usually zones, but right now it's a tight zone. If we expand it out, you can see that it's a zone. Intraday north, intraday south. This is a really cool one. This is the well, first of all, this is the VWAP, the little skinny line. This is the skinny. This is the VWAP. As you guys all know, it's the volume weighted average price that operates using the volume of the day, and it gives you that line. If you talk to anyone that is trading on Wall Street now, I'm harking back to my days at Morgan Stanley. I wasn't a trader, but I was an electronic publisher, and I was dealing with analysts and traders. They said VWAP is life. If you trade along the VWAP, you're good. Meaning, if you're on the south side, you trade to the south side until it breaks, and then you trade the north side when you're north side. Just like any other support and resistance, but this one is it's a moving average, right? This thicker line, this is the 2-day VWAP. This incorporates today's values and the prior session's values. This happens to be Friday's values, so change it to sessions. I love using this one because look how much it respects it, right? The price came up, touched it, flew away. Came back again, bounced off of it, flew away. Tested it, broke it in the morning. That's a lot of volume in the morning. I can understand it breaking it, but it tested the area, didn't like its waters, and came flying back up again. Now we're testing it 2 more times. It broke it here, didn't hold. It broke it, came back to retest like we were talking about earlier. It failed, and now it's on the north side. The script I'm using for TOS looks different. Did you customize yours? Is there another one? Okay, so you figured it out. Good. Sorry, Kyle. Yeah, so Kyle brings up a great point. Thinkorswim, the QTA is available to import onto your Thinkorswim using the installation guide right here. It's frame by frame. Brian does a wonderful job of explaining everything that he talks about and tries to get everyone else to understand. And you can have these levels on your own chart, either Thinkorswim or TradingView. I keep mine separate. I'm on the website all day as it is, so I just like to pull it up. And plus, this is a clean chart, right? I can go back here and show you that it's pretty messy. it's pretty messy on my chart as it is, so I like to keep everything clean. As I'm going through this, I'm noticing Microsoft coming back to test this level here. If this fails, I'm out. That's my stop loss. If this holds, that just makes a new higher low, and then that's the trip up for the rest of the week. So now that we understand that QTA has levels that are not related to tech and they're not related to the options, we can then overlay them on our levels that we make, because technical analysis, we just make it from previous levels. This price visited this area 3 times, so now this is a level. 423.34, and if we check the quant level, 423.34 is not on here. But what is on here is 422.50, which is max pain, and the intraday level of 421, or say just 422, round it off. So 422, that area, the first 50 cents at 422, is a strong support in the world of quant trading. Make that a note on your chart right here, and we can play along. Now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm thinking maybe we should make our stop loss at 422.50. I'm not in full position, right? I'm not in there yet, so I do have some extra that I can add if we bounce off this. I'm going to have to play that with my paper. I'm going to have to play that personally, but I'm just showing you my thought process here. Oh, okay. Yeah, Kyle, absolutely. This is in the app, and let's get back to that real quick. It's in the app under, actually, it's, I'm going to get up here. It's under the app under charts and quant data, and you'll have a selection of, I think it's about 2 dozen, maybe more, of stocks that are here. If it's not on here, that just means it doesn't have enough of a sample size to produce the data that's required for QTA to kind of stand behind it. There are ways that we can plot any ticker that has enough of an options, market, a derivative market, to plot your own levels, and we can get into that a little later. But I just wanted to focus on more of a faster trade happening here. Okay, cool. Kyle's on board. I like the way Kyle operates. So where were we? Right. So now we have 2 areas of confluence. We have the tech, which we, our own eyes, can create using what we've learned from charting, right? We previous levels, areas, maybe dark pool levels. There's a dark pool available on the public side and the pay side under QTA. That's available in the Discord. But there's a third one that we can, so we have the parameters, right? We have the support. We notice this 42, 422.50 and 422 flat. The tech levels 423.30. Now we look at the high levels, right? We'll mark this off. This is the high of the day. So we have this and the VWAP in between. These are the bookends. These are the parameters. We want to know where, if there's a momentum, a way to find out if it gives us a more of a feeling, or just data, really. I'm trying to find a word, but the word is data. We want to find if there's more data to give us a case that we could be going in this direction. Now, nothing I'm saying here is going to be absolute by any means. These are just clues, right? These are clues to add to the theory that you've come up with. So our theory, once again, is to go up to maybe 428 and possibly higher. Now that we know that, we can use our Discord, and once you become a gold member, these will be available to you on the excellent. There you are. Thank you, man. Let me get a response there. Fire. So in the Discord, you'll have access to the gamma exposure files. Now, we can go over the 0DT for SPY and Qs and SPX, but right now let's stick to the play at hand, which is the Microsoft weekly. It's because this Friday expirations, there's no 0DTE for Microsoft yet. I'm telling you, a couple years from now, there's going to be Tesla, NVDA, Microsoft, Amazon. They're going to have their own 0DTEs, but from there. So this is the GEX feed. It stands for gamma exposure. Gamma exposure, if you can look up the definition, more power to you. It just probably says something like it's the measure of how much the underlying has to move to move the delta by 1 point, how much the delta has to move the underlying by 1 point. Whatever that is, we're just going to focus on how we use to trade it. So the GEX feed is about every 15 or every 16 minutes, it's going to give you a new snapshot of the gamma exposure. And we're going to look first at the mornings that kind of triggered this idea, and we're start at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. we have the spot price, the yellow price. I'll make this bigger. The spot price is the yellow. The max pain, we talked about 422.50, and this purple line, this is the absolute GEX, 425. This is an area of high liquidity. Now, this shifts throughout the day as calls, puts come in, the open interest shifts, the open interest gets, checked off or handled, the market maker reaches a certain point, and the market tries to stay liquidity, so you can kind of go by the thinking that a high liquidity area, the market wants to try to go to try and keep the market balanced, right? So this is a high liquidity area, the absolute 425. What we can also see is on the positive side. Now listen, everything above this line is positive. Everything below this line is negative. Right now, the negative GEX is navy blue. If this should turn red, that would mean the net GEX is negative, which means just more volatility. So right now, we're looking at the positive is at 430, right? I'll line that up right. Yeah, 430. And there's another spike at 435. This, to me, would kind of make me think that this is a big of an attraction. If these were together, next to one another, like 430 and 431, that would make it an even more of an attraction. Did you think that I can... Yes, and you can also use the chat in the YouTube, by the way. I'm getting a couple DMs. You can use the chat in the YouTube. It'll be a little easier to kind of gather. But if I miss a question, I'll get to it after. I do apologize for that. But so this is what kind of piqued my interest in the morning, that we had this attraction, a big one. And that number is nothing to take lightly. So the volume for that is just under 8 million. And the next one is just around, okay, let's say call them both, just under 8 and a little more under 8. This was at 10 a.m. If we cycle through, and this is a cool thing about the feed, you can then every 16 minutes get a snapshot in real time how that's happening. We cycle through a half an hour later, and now they're equal, and they're both above 8 million. So it's growing, right? That attraction is growing. It's not diminishing. So our case is kind of increasing. And now let's fast forward to live here. Where are we here? The 430 should be higher. No, it's not. Okay, that's just under 8. Now the 435 is decreasing. Not a lot, but it's decreasing. I would have liked it to be increasing. Now let's double back and check to see if the negative GEX is increasing or not. This live, remember, we're going to be working backwards, is right around 5, and we'll cycle back like an hour or two. Let's go 11:30. So that's holding steady at 5, and then we'll go to the morning. We could have worked this both the same way, but I'm just thinking in real time. And about 5. So the negative GEX is staying pretty solid. Positive GEX dropped a little bit, but it's still quite significant, right? So the plan is still there. The plan still lives. And let's check live on what's going on here. Microsoft is kind of thinking maybe we don't have to visit this line again. That would be good for me. If we start holding this level here, that would be good. That would be a nice thing to do. I'm not going to add to this position, even though it's on paper and I can do anything I want. But I'm just going to let this play out because I am live and I don't want to spend all my time focusing on my position, but really more along the lines explaining how you can apply these tools into any play you want. So hold here. Let me just make a mental note of it. 70. So I want this number to stay above 70 as I bounce back and forth. And we'll update this. This refreshes. You can refresh this as many times as you want, and it'll give you good data. It doesn't automatically refresh because it likes to archive everything that it does, and when you refresh something, it will remove the way the data is archived, so just refresh it on your own. We're now below the 2-day VWAP. That's not good. That doesn't make a good case for something higher, but again, the new plan was that we might be revisiting the 422.50 max pain. And the good thing about talking things out and talking them out live like this is that you start thinking of, oh, you know what? Maybe I should wait for max pain to touch and get that solid support bounce from there to go higher. And that's perfectly fine. And someone, if you were to hear me trade when I'm alone in a room, it sounds like I'm on the phone with someone because I will be having a full-blown conversation with myself, just talking out a trade. And I invite you guys to do the same, unless you're worried about your neighbors or your family members thinking you might have a screw loose, but that's all right. Right? When you're paying for dinners, they'll always like, okay, you can talk to yourself all you want. But where was I? Right, the GEX. So we want to monitor the GEX. We want to notice how this is increasing or this is decreasing, and also I'm keeping an eye on the call volume. That's the blue shaded area in the back. When you have a spike, as we see here at 4:30, this kind of leans me to thinking that would be a ceiling, correct? So the call volume, when that high call volume is kind of reached, all those calls, start, popping up, and that might kind of think, okay, we've reached this, that's enough for me, and we'll start trying to settle back down. The max pain will stay static, so that support still stays there. We're then going to see if like some other support system may pop up. Where does that come in? Technical analysis, and also we can check on the quant chart. Now, if let's say hypothetically we reached that 430 mark, we would have to break through this tech level that also lines up with the intraday. So we have confluence there, the tech and the QTA chart. We should see a break and a retest there for any chance of higher. It says here 433 is the sell zone, but it probably gets down. How much is this? 434. So this is about a 40-cent zone. This zone is sometimes a little bigger, and you could see, especially on a stock that trades around 420, you could see like a 5-point zone. So don't expect this to be as tight as it is now. The same thing with intraday. Again, all based on calculations that I'm not even sure where they come from, but I just trust them as math and algorithms. The creator, Bryant, who is likes to be known as an avid user rather than just a creator, he created this for himself to trade more efficiently and more confidently, right? So instead of waking up at 4 in the morning and doing all these calculations every day to plot down the 2 sigma calculations of this is already plotted out. He can put it onto his chart, and he can move on with his life, and that's how we can do it also. We can apply this, more confident trades, and move on to what we want to do. So I always say that QTA, I found, makes good traders great and makes great traders more confident. And that's really the goal. We want to have more confidence in our trades, that we're not losing sleep at night. We're having 2 sweaty palms, or we're, oh, is this going to happen? Are we going to break this line? We're not going to break it. First of all, if you're having those anxious feelings, we should probably address your risk allotment. Any risk that is you don't feel like you can recover from is too much, right? And I'm not saying that only trade with money or you're willing never to see again, because that would be too much extreme. But you want to trade with something that you know that you'll be able to recover from. Speaking of that line we wanted to break, we wanted to hold was the 70 mark. I think we dipped below it, but we seem to be holding it there. So if that's the case, just take a couple, more than a couple seconds to really examine, am I putting too much out there? But the risk that you are putting out there, we want to have double checks and triple checks to make sure that this is a real confident trade. Because I go by the theory, if you don't know, don't go. And I cringe when I hear someone say, oh, I just put, this happens a lot in the biotech stocks and some other places, but people will say, oh, I just bought XYZ at 2,000 shares. I really hope we see $2 out of this. And it drives me wild. It's like, I love going to AC. You could put money on roulette and get all excited when you win, because it's sure chance and sure luck. We don't want to be surprised when we win. If you're surprised when you win, you're doing it wrong. Okay, I won. How can I be doing it wrong? That's good, but you want to expect the win. You want to see a win. You want to react to that almost like a paycheck, right? At the end of a win. So if we get to 430 on Microsoft and I cash out, I'm not going to be jumping up and down and thinking of what color to pick my Lamborghini. And I want to say, okay, good. That's what worked. It's like a paycheck. We did the research. We did the homework. We checked all the levels on the quantitative method. We checked the levels of the GEX for sentiment and market direction. We want to get paid, right? So, and it always drove me nuts when we'd be a part of these, like, I guess we call them like the guru communities, where people come in and say, hey, what's the trade for the day? Okay, here's the trade for the day. And you hear the person that gave it to you get really excited when it hits. It kind of sets off alarm bells in my head. I'm like, well, weren't we expecting this? Like, why is this like a cause for break out the champagne? And, I'm all for celebrating a good day's work, but not as if our horse just came in first, right? So you see the difference, right? And I also am known to beat a dead horse. Right. So we're making higher lows on Microsoft, and I think I've made the case pretty apparent on why I chose this trade. And now we just have to wait to see how we operate at the VWAP. And we can look around. I did bounce around, I think, the part one from this yesterday, and I think I was alerted. Jason P-Man told me that the audio wasn't working on that one, so I might have to just scrap that also. But if you want to check it out, the visuals, we were looking at Tesla, to where it was opening. So if we had opened above 170, we should see a trip to 172.50. Where did I get that from? We got that from the GEX, and we can simply pull it up because everything on QTA you're able to back test, and everything is archived. Some of it's archived to 2017, and keep in mind that we don't want to check prior to 2020, or at least if we do, use the thinking that it's different data, because there was such a deluge of people coming in 2020 that they just changed the market data forever. So we're going to look at the morning for Tesla. And following up from last night's video, we only had the GEX from Friday, and the GEX from Friday didn't really tell us much. The GEX from Friday was the end of the week, and the absolute closed right on the absolute, which is a great tool to use if you're into iron butterflies or iron condors, more so that I found than the max pain, because the absolute GEX will more easily show the closing at the end of an expiration more so than the max pain. And we want to see when it stops shifting around and where it settles. So far it's 170, and I think we closed right at 170. Fast forward. Close at 165. So about 5 points off from. So what I left off with from last night's video was we want to wait to see what the GEX gives us in the morning. On Tesla, 9:32, 2 minutes after the market opened, we have that 172.50 absolute GEX. Remember, that's a high liquidity zone, and it has the high GEX. I'll make it bigger, sorry. Highest GEX, clearly, right? It's about 13 million. The next one closest to it is, I would say, 7.5 million, and that's on the positive side also, up to 182. Down here, the negative GEX doesn't hold a candle to it. It's all about 6. So the thinking that 172.50 is in the cards. We opened just under 170. There's a big call volume there, so I would have held off, but let's just follow along, right? We think we're going to move up to 172, and we'll follow through how the price action went along the day. And I think we hit 172 right here at is this noon? Yeah, about noon. We touched 172.50. That's the highest GEX, and it's the absolute GEX. The call volume shifted. That spike now moved up to the 174 range. And if we go on the tech chart, right up there, and look, at 174.50, it was like hitting a wall. This line here is my technical analysis. That probably came from a previous high, whatever it is. But that lines up the call volume with the tech. So now we have 2x confluence. And just like that, we have a plan of attack. If you're a scalper, or this is not even a scalper, this would be a regular day trade. This would have been a nice day trade. We followed the VWAP up. We kind of overextended. We came back. We tested the VWAP and tested this not psychological. Well, 170 is, but more of a technical level. Bounced off it. We reached that 172.50, which was the high GEX. We continued up to the high spike. The call volume ran into a little bit of resistance, and now we're holding at the VWAP, which also happens to be the high GEX. Now, when you have a high GEX that stands out like this, and there's no other, comparison around it, you can kind of get a stall. This is where consolidation happens. Consolidation happens when people start taking profit and other people start getting in. It's a point of one person saying, I'm out of the trade, and another part where people are like, all right, I'm in the trade. You can actually see this and make a visualization of it with this high GEX right here. This is high liquidity because it's absolute GEX, and the high gex. So we can kind of hang out in this area, 174 down to 172.50 for a little while as it eats up this high liquidity. Where do we go from there? It looks like the easier road would be up, right? There is some low liquidity here, which could act as a resistance, but we can play that by ear. This would not be a trade that I would be interested in because it's not a clear path. And we don't have to take it. You know, when people ask, I understand, you know, people like to trade certain tickers, and I'll get questions like, what do we see in Tesla today? Sometimes the answer is not much, you know, and you have to be able to shuffle and find maybe something else. If you have the itch that you want to trade today, you don't have to trade on that one ticker. And the other thing, you don't have to trade every day. It's called day trading. It's not everyday trading, right? We can take a break and wait for our good path to show up. What's up, Jeremy? I need to run to a meeting at work, but loving these videos to understand what QTA is doing and the options for using it. Awesome. Jeremy, I welcome you to QTA, and if you have any questions about it, you can post it in enthusiast chat, or if you're on, when you do get into the gold side, check out quant chat. That's the area where they talk about most the gex feed that we're talking about and the QTA charts. You can talk in gold about everything that has to do with the market. That's where people will share their own data. There's people in there that work off their own spreadsheets using QTA values, but they incorporate new levels. So excellent, Jeremy. Thanks for the heads up that you had to run, and I'm so glad that you're enjoying it. And if you guys that are here, consider, do me a favor. I mean, like and subscribe. That's one thing. It helps out the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. But it really helps out me, to be honest with you. But if you are considering joining QTA and you're not sure, use this code. I'm going to put it in chat right now. This code is good at, you know, as far as for the foreseeable future. That will give you 30% off your first month, and you get to know that that makes perfect sense. And 90% of my colleagues that I've signed up, they're, you know, I've been trading with it for a while. They try it out for a month, and 90% of them are all annual, if not more, annual users of it, because that's the more economical way to do it. But you know, try it out for a month and take advantage. We do demos every Sunday, and I think now we might be moving it to Monday nights. But it's workshops, right? We want to know that you're using the tools correctly, and for the support on that. And I don't know if my new friend Deal is in the house here, but we were talking about spreads, and there's a whole community here on spreads. I talk mainly about directional trades, but there's a huge community that deals specifically in spreads. Broken butterfly wings, broken wing butterflies is like a staple around here. Double calendars is a favorite of Bryant's, and he doesn't just post them and say, "Oh guys, this is what I'm doing. Good luck." He posts this as an avid user, as a member, as one of the team. He'll give you his insight and what he's thinking, why he thought that, and then when he changes it, he'll give you why he's changing it. And because a lot of things about with spreads, it's a little different than directional. Directional is you place a trade, you get out your target, and that's it. You know, you got pizza money for the weekend, or you got your down payment on your house, whatever the case is. You're in, you're out. When it comes to spreads, the main thing to realize is that it's a breathing trade. It requires maintenance. It requires adjusting. Sometimes you might have to take a leg out. Sometimes if it's a double calendar, you have to move it into a regular calendar. You're constantly adjusting and shifting it. It's like steering a cruise ship versus a speedboat, right? If we're going down, you know, the channel markers in a cigarette boat, we're cutting in and out. We're turning the wheel constantly. If we're sailing across the Atlantic, we want to make small adjustments to make that cruise ship just turn a little bit at a time. We don't want to just cut the wheel and the cruise ship go. That's not how it is. With spreads, you want to course correct over time and just do slight adjustments. So that's something to keep in mind, the difference between spreads and directional trades. I hope that made sense. And sometimes I can get a little interplanetary with my analogies, but I think that one hits it right on the nose. NVIDIA, I would love to discuss NVIDIA. Absolutely. NVIDIA is doing moderately well, you know, for itself. I mean, tripling itself in the course of, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, that's something you can write home about, right? But this has been an unprecedented rise. NVIDIA is trading, like I mentioned biotech earlier, NVIDIA is trading like a penny stock, a biotech penny stock, but it's like one of the if not the biggest market cap out there. And maybe Apple is, no, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, NVIDIA might have the biggest market cap, but it's unprecedented. And everyone, including me, has been waiting and looking for that pullback. I was looking for pullbacks after this gap up right here. I'll be completely honest with you. I said, this gap is going to get covered, and it's going to get covered, and I'm going to make out like a bandit. It never broke down that way. It never went even blinked towards it. And in fact, it just went tripling itself all the way up. Now we're approaching that 1K. It's a big psychological level, and you never, well, I shouldn't say you never, but it makes sense that 974 was a place for NVIDIA to check itself. You know, everyone thinks, oh, we're just going to go 1,000 and that's where I'm going to take my money. Well, if everyone's thinking that way, we want to be at the head of the line. So when people start getting out before that psychological level, people start taking notice of it, and all of a sudden that psychological level, it starts dropping from 1K down to 990, 980, 974. I'm going to be honest with you again, after this day, I was expecting NVIDIA to at least come back and get a nice correction going on, and at least find support. And I think this was after earnings, this little gap right here. I said it would be nice to touch this, the top of the gap again, if not cover this gap for a chance to go higher, but not yet. We're in this up channel. So if we know anything about technical analysis, you have a flag looks something like this. You run up, it makes a flag, and then it runs higher, right? This is your typical flag and continuation. And the previous, they call this the pole, right? The pole should be equal to the continuation. What we're seeing here is an upward facing flag. Instead of it pulling back, it's running up like this, and that would lead us to believe a reversal might happen. So if you backtest any or a lot of stocks, when you see that pattern, you have a pole running up and then it just keeps climbing up a little bit, I shouldn't put a number to it, but more times than not, you'll see a collapse after that flag up. With NVIDIA, it's happened the exact opposite. You can go and backtest how many times NVIDIA made an up channel only to go higher, right? So all bets are off when it comes to NVIDIA. I've tried to examine NVIDIA's run on a technical basis. You can't, because fundamentally, things are happening fundamentally with the company NVIDIA that supersedes tech analysis, right? They're making these chips, and supposedly, I guess they're pretty good. I mean, whatever. But that's what's driving the force, which if you were trading in the 1920s, that's how you would do it. Ford, I heard Ford's a good company. I'm going to invest in it. Perfect. 50 years later, you're a billionaire. Now, with technical analysis, everyone is looking at the candlesticks. They're looking at charts. The computers are trading on algorithms that have to do a lot more with what the charts are showing us, along with the fundamentals and the company's success or failure, right? So we have to kind of look at more angles about it. So with that being said, that NVIDIA does not play by the pullback and surprisingly perfect up channel right here that we should break to the downside. We are breaking a little bit, and what we're finding this support at 841. So I'm not really going to make a move. The move that I could be making for this week, this is the end of the week right here, is possibly a double bottom, or another touch, I should say, because I think it already tapped here, down to 860. It's not much of a move, 10 points on a stock trading 871, but it's a move nonetheless. And if you look at the options chain, a 10-point move on NVIDIA in any single day is something that happens quite often. In fact, today, what did we open at? Say 890, and now we're down to 870. So that's 20 points right there. Again, I'm speaking more generally, and actually, no, I'm speaking specifically to certain types of trades. If you're more of the investor type, that's like, I like to buy something and hold it for 6 months or a year. That's fine. At this point, I don't know if I would be so inclined to get in through NVIDIA for the first time or add to my portfolio with NVIDIA. NVIDIA is in my long-term portfolio. I'm not touching it. I did touch it along the way, but what I have left is what I have for going forward. The opportunity that I keep hearing is that a pullback on NVIDIA would not be a signal to sell or close your position in the portfolio, but simply to add more. Pullbacks are great if you believe in the company. If that's the way you're thinking, that's great. And there's also tools on QTA to look at that. I like to use advanced GEX, and as that's loading, I can explain what I'm looking at. So the GEX that we looked at before gives us the data for that week's expiration, this Friday. That's what we were looking at, the GEX feed for this Friday. If we're looking to invest for NVIDIA to say out to, let's just say June, right? We can pull up the advanced GEX, and we type in NVIDIA, and on the right here, you'll see expirations that will, as it loads, they will give us all the expirations that are available for NVIDIA on its options chain and the options market. What we can then do, we'll uncheck all, and we'll add every expiration up to the June monthly OpEx, right? June 6th, yeah. We'll click submit, and what this will do is generate our very own individualized, tailored, customized gamma exposure chart. And I said earlier that we can make our own chart based on our trades. We can use the data that it gives us here to literally write those levels on. And you hover over the bubbles and it will tell you, like, this is the most negative GEX, that's the gamma flip, the absolute GEX is way up here at 900, using all this data here. But the cool part is it gives you a visualization of it, and we can look at this just as if we were looking at the regular GEX feed. There we go. So we have the same values we're looking at. The absolute GEX, that purple line, is at 900. It's a good psychological level. It's also the highest GEX. This, to me, is a very strong attractant. This is the highest GEX is at 13 million. The negative side is 7.9 million. The next one below that is even higher than the 900 at 10 million. Now, I'm not saying that this is in play because it's a high GEX, but this will, in my use of the tool, this will add to the attractant of 900, if that makes sense. To me, the way I use it, and again, everyone uses tools differently. Bryant is the creator of the tool, and he's an avid user. He may use it differently than Johnny, who joins the next day, and they can both find success. And that's why the community is so important, because we share how we use the tool. And I can safely say that Bryant might be using it to the best out of all of us, but there are ways that people feel more comfortable in different trading styles, right? So incorporate that into, or keep that in mind when I'm explaining how I use it. The next thing I want to look at is the absolute GEX on how much of a spike that is, right? And we'll cut out the net GEX so we can focus on that. So the absolute GEX value, that line, gives us the highest value. The next highest, it would be really good if the next highest absolute GEX was just above it, right? Because then that would be more of a pull, more of a magnet. Unfortunately, the next highest GEX is below us at 850. This will change over time. Keep in mind, we have expirations all the way out to June. And if you notice, the value underneath each expiration has a percentage on it. So you can see there's a lot for this Friday. A lot of people trade 1 to 2 weeks out. If we really are serious about what the market temperature is going all the way out to June, we can kill these first 2 Fridays, and we'll get a new tailored report, and that should give us a little better insight into what the market might look like for NVIDIA, or at least the way people are looking at NVIDIA for that time. Okay, now we have a lot more of a positive outlook, right? The absolute GEX is a little lower. It's about 890, right, 870, 880. Sorry, 880, a little above where we are now, but still lots of high GEX above. I would kind of get the idea that up is easier from this, circling back to our tech chart, knowing that NVIDIA likes to break to the upside on an upward facing channel. We can make that as a clue. In knowing that we have good support here at the 840s, we're just above that, 30 points above it. Maybe we can wait. Maybe we can wait to come down and test that 840 again and see if it holds, right? Now that we have that new thought, we go back to the GEX and say, what's at 840? Okay, there's a little draw down there. There's a little negative GEX, but these are all red, which would insinuate the net GEX is negative, which means volatility exists. All these keep in mind, and let's take a look what the absolute GEX is on this particular one. Sorry, I hit the mouse wheel when I zigged when I should have zagged. So here, the absolute GEX, the 1, the 2, the 3, the top 3 absolute GEX are higher than the current spot price. That's interesting, right? All these, we're putting these clues together, we're putting them in a file to hand over to the DA once we make the trade. So the higher for NVIDIA is easier. Now, if you're thinking about NVIDIA, of course, you know, you look at the fundamentals of NVIDIA. Oh my God, yeah, NVIDIA is going to go to 2,000. I'm almost positive of it. You know, these are some things that people say. This would give us a little more of a credibility to back that theory up, because we want to invest with technical analysis and fundamental, not just one or the other. You can do that if you want. That's just me. I want to get as much confluence to confirm or negate it. So now that we incorporate all these things, we can kind of get a better picture. So to me, there's not enough of a case to say, I'm going to get 100 shares of NVIDIA tomorrow or even today, because I still think there's that possibility that we can revisit at least 856, and if not, 840. Based on what happens at 840, we can then revisit our plan for NVIDIA for 2 months from now, right? So I hope that makes sense. Did I make that full circle? Did I come back around? Let me know in chat what you're thinking about that, and let me know if there's a ticker that you wanted to try, and we'll pull up. You know, tell me like if you think you want to go a few months and you're investing in Victoria's Secret up there. What would that look like? What would Chipotle look like, or something like that? Type it in chat. I just have to go check on something real quick. I'm gonna pop out for a second, but I'm not done with the stream. I'm not done with you yet. I'm not done with you yet. I just want to double check something else. I'm not gonna look at the eclipse either, and I don't suggest you guys should. So let's see. Let me cycle through some DMs here. All right, so get yourself, it's like 2:15, get yourself something to eat, or maybe a little light snack, a beverage. And I'll be back in a few. And we're back. So apparently there's an eclipse going on outside, huh? I did not look up at it, by the way. That's not what I went to go do, but. So what do we have? What I miss on Microsoft? Are we at the VWAP yet? We want to get there. We want to get there. NVIDIA, I think today will just be a retest of the VWAP to play it. But again, if you're going in long on NVIDIA, I would wait for this retest on 840. I would see if the action is there to play either a bounce off of it or if a break, retest, and a fly down to 754. That would be a nice move. Now that I'm saying that out loud, if NVIDIA does break this 840, this, or maybe this would be the next level down. I'm going to leave this here. This looks like the best support. Actually, right there. And I'm going to enter this one as a target. So, does anyone want to see the eclipse? Not like see it live, but should I pull it up? I mean, I feel kind of weird. I mean, I was all into astronomy when I was younger, and now there's an eclipse happening, and I'm not addressing it. Should say something, right? Give us something, man. Let's see what's going on. It's weird. I don't really watch SPY as much as I did. I used to just watch SPY. I used to have SPY up on a screen constantly for market direction as I trade in and out of the other ones surrounding it. But now I don't know. I just don't. Unless someone requests it, I don't really pull it up. So, but if you, I mean, I have no problem with it. I can always pull it up and ask it. So let's look at SPY real quick, huh? Now that we're talking about it, let's get this. What am I doing? Sorry. I eclipsed out. So, SPY has 519 as max pain. I think I have that marked off, right? We have one too many lines here. So what are we looking at in SPY? I could see we can make a case for it. We have an up channel that we broke into the downside, and now we're coming back to retest that break. There was support here at 517.40. If we had came back and tested that, that would be a good sign for more down to come, but we haven't. We went up to max pain and we're testing that. So here's another thing on max pain, since we're touching on that. Max pain is looked at as a goal or as a direction or as a target, right? It's where, that's the point where calls and puts together have the least amount of intrinsic value. And everyone goes by the theory that max pain is the goal every week for the market makers and they want everyone to lose their money. I don't think that's exactly the case. That's the theory. That just happens to be what happens. That's what happens at that strike price, right? It's not necessarily the goal or a target. What really happens is I like to use that as a support and resistance, because on one side you have the most puts and the other side you have the most calls. So this would be a natural barrier to either think above or below, similar to as how we think of the VWAP or the 2-day VWAP that we were discussing. So sometimes if you hear something like max pain, but if you kind of hear it in a different light, you may choose to not look at that way, but just to hear how someone else may see it. It could help you or just add to any type of trading you have. There you go. I was waiting for that second column to come up, but it didn't. No real large orders coming through, all like 100 to 500. There's 1,000 there. At 519.13. So it looks like we have a lot of high liquidity here, right? And now we can double check that by pulling up the GEX. In fact, We'll do that on the advanced GEX to get a better understanding. The SPY has its own 0DTE GEX feed. It uses today's expiration and the weekly. That will give you an extra layer of confluence to either confirm or negate any theory that you're coming up with. But just for the sake of visualization, I'm going to use the advanced GEX here because we can manipulate the data that we're looking at. So first off, this is the SPY using every expiration except for 422. For whatever reason it left that out. I'm going to not debate that or question it. This is every expiration and the data that's coming back for it. Obviously, right around where we are now is the highest point of liquidity, 520, and the spot price right here. We have a little higher here. What's the number here? 137.6, and this should be like 120, 130.4. Close, Doc. Only off by like 14 million. Now on the other side of that, this looks a little larger. 165 and 142. Okay. I just read the number out loud and I totally forgot it. Is that an issue? 165 and 1. Get there. People are watching. There we go. 137. So a little more of a draw, and I guess you can, see all these other bars down here. A little more of an attraction to the downside. That's not to say that we should ignore the upside. Also, keep in mind, we're incorporating every expiration possible. If we uncheck all and just focus on this week, we'll start with the week, and then we'll try and clip some off to get through. All right, now this is, just a reminder, this is using today's, tomorrow's, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I'm going to leave this up here for a second and just have you guys visualize it as I check a couple of DMs here. Yes, sir. So what are we looking at here? More of the same that we saw on the larger chart, right? We have a nice road paved, almost with some gaps in there, but 528 is possibility. 528 sound familiar, right? That was, no, I'm thinking of 428 on Microsoft. So let's just take a quick look at what 528 looks like on the chart. We have it marked off. I must have marked that off for high GEX. That cannot have been anything technical. This is new. This is open air. So this is probably a previous high GEX. So a lot of people are looking at 528 for a little bit of a while here. We could see this as a run up and a back test. If that were the case, this would be, does that look like good support? Let's look at it nude here. Let's see. This looks like the best support right here, 508. Secondary to the 515, which was already broken. Right? You guys see what I'm looking at? That looks okay. All right, I see where that could make a case there. This could just be a little bit of a pullback for something higher, or this could be a trend breaking down. More information is needed. Right now, we're at this perfect indecision candle, perfect doji of a day. And what we were checking, oh, the high GEX, right? We were checking high GEX around the max pain, 519. I'll turn on absolute GEX. Bam! Right there. 519. Now, we're incorporating all of them. I don't know why I took off Thursdays. Let's do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. More to the back end of the week. We're refresh it to give ourselves a new gex, and we'll take a mental picture. Okay, not much difference. Still super high liquidity. And now one final one I'm just going to use. Oh, did they all come back? That's weird. That's why it looked very similar. Nothing's changed because it's the same data, dude. Let's just look at what Friday's expiration looks like, and we'll double. Okay, Friday. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. So now we have a higher liquidity. The absolute has traveled down to 515. We'll turn on the graph. So this is comparable. So 515 is a spike, but there's the next highest one at 520, and another one, our good old friend 528. High gex, third highest absolute gex. I'd be watching this absolute value and this high gex value, because if this starts to pile on, people might want to get in below it to catch the move up to that, to catch the move of getting in the money, and this might pave the road. We'll look at the open interest. That should be right around, yeah, bingo, right around 528. Ooh, what's this little spike all the way up here? Just for kicks, what's the put? Down to 508. Whoa, wasn't that where we said support would be? Right? Didn't we say that would look like good support right there, 508? Other people are seeing what we're seeing, so we're not crazy. And finally, we'll take out the call volume. See, now this is an issue for me. This huge call volume spike is at 520. You can even say a little below 520. Let's see what it says. 525, 15.7 million. Absolute gex, 57 million. Right, so this, to me, would be a little bit of a resistance. Not even a little bit. I would say a lot of resistance. There is this draw here with this negative gex. This could be a point of big resistance, this 520. And just to, where's the absolute gex again? Also at 520. So a move to 520, making a 520 also a psychological level, this would be our first obstacle if we were playing up to 528. And keep in mind, this is for Friday. If we were to add next week, we'll look at them together. That's a nice road. That's a nice paved road, right? Isn't that what I was saying? That you wanted to see these gaps fill in, and we get this paved road up. This is using this Friday's and next Friday's. And just the call open interest should be right here. Bingo, right there. The call volume, is there a big spike? Not so much. Where is that the biggest? Yeah, still right there at 520. That's still going to be an obstacle to get over. And then finally, absolute gex. Wow, down to 510. So we have conflicting data. I like this road paved, but I don't like how absolute gex is all the way down here. This should change throughout the week. We can see absolute gex shift up. If the absolute gex shifts to 530, this stays high, this road stays paved. The call volume, if that seems to drop, this is the only thing I'm worried about, is that spike on the call volume right here. In fact, if we break that, retest it, this is a higher probability, but this is still a big attraction. 510 and a very high gex, 58.7, and what's this, just for comparison, 77, 78, 70. So again, conflicting data. I wouldn't place a trade that we were talking about next Friday, but just so we can get a little bit of a market direction. And when I trade 0DT on SPY, I usually trade one of today's expiration, and then I'll throw in tomorrow's expiration, either for a hedge or for a continuation. So if I'm thinking that this is going to be resistance, let me add an area here. If I don't like the looks of this, this is a pole with a ascending triangle attached to it. Also, we're running into resistance of the trend here. We double topped on this level. We have max pain. If I'm taking up the theory that SPY is going to drop back down to 514, I would play maybe one put for today and maybe a longer put for tomorrow, or I'd go to the the thinking that if we are going to spike, well, the spike is going to happen today. So you'd play today's call. No, actually, if the spike would happen tomorrow. So you can play tomorrow's call and today's put. Whatever the case, I'm not doing either one of those. I'm just trying to give you a possibility of how to potentially invest using multiple DTEs. And we're actually going to see this forming right here. A nice little symmetrical. Wonder if that goes all the way back. Just for kicks. Pretty interesting. Interessante. Tomorrow, what this is telling me is tomorrow we could see a pop above or below. We've took a wide stance and now funneling in to a point. At the end of a point of a symmetrical triangle, you have a break one way or the other. And that looks even smoother right there. What I did is I just turned off the extended hours. That looks a little more fresh, right? And what also could be happening, this is what I'm talking about with technical analysis being a science and an art, is that if the more time I spend looking at this chart, the more angles I'll start seeing. All right, Microsoft trade is still up just 13.6%. We're holding, waiting on that. And I'll take this opportunity to allow myself to introduce myself. My name is Humpty, pronounced with an umpty. So this is SPY 0 DTE. This is the GEX feed for SPY 0 DTE. We'll start at what it looked like in the beginning of the day and see how it changed throughout the course of it. So 9:15 is pre-market data. You can use this data to try and gain a theory. 9:30 is still using the first 15 minutes before market open. This is the first data that's used using the fresh market data. And if we look at this, where would we think we'd be going? We have max pain as support at 518. We have a call block right here at the same one we've been talking about, 520. Even though this high GEX up here, it looks like it's through a little bit. It's through the resistance. It's through this little gap. 522 would be a pie in the sky type of action. Let's see if we, I know we've been looking at it. I don't know if we actually got up to 522. We hit the 520 wall, that call wall. We tried twice, and we've gotten rejected twice. It looks like SPY might be trying to make a move here to break out of this triangle. So let's follow that. Let's follow that. Let's look at this live. Let's stop looking back. Let's look at it live. Let's play this live. F it, we'll do it live. So, high liquidity right here at 519. Not the highest GEX. The highest GEX is down at 517. We have max pain as support at 518. This is really high GEX. The put volume is acting as kind of a support right here as well. The call volume as resistance. We should, by all accounts, we should think that we could end at 519 today. This looks like a trap, right? Even though we have this high GEX here, this could be a target for today, but this seems the most logical way is that we finish right above max pain at 518. If max pain is broken, then that 517 looks very, very good. This should be where we close today. If I were to be playing a iron butterfly on paper trading, I would use 519, probably get a tight iron butterfly, maybe like a $14 credit or something like that. Low risk, high reward. It's a lotto, all right? I'm looking for lotto plays. It's not sound investment advice. It's just a little fun to have when we notice something that looks that interesting. And what I mean, what is it that was that interesting? We want to cover that again, and I lost my Discord. Just to revisit, what I found interesting was that you have the put volume a big spike right here below us at 518, matching up with max pain. That's good support. Above us, call volume spike at 520. The absolute GEX is at 519. And just to put frosting on top of the cupcakes, we can pull up the quant chart for SPY. And see what adds confluence to it. The 2-day VWAP, which is a very good support system, it's been respecting it for the last 2 days. That's at 518.24. The intraday is at 518.47, and then the max pain's at 519. If these intradays have been really a lot tighter, that would add confluence to our narrow finish. So bounce up to the top of the triangle, bounce down to the bottom. 519 on the money actually might be a good, or maybe 518.94. Well, we don't have to get around down to the penny, I guess, right? So 519 looks like a very high possibility. So a tight iron butterfly, maybe. I might just do one on paper right now just to... Nah, I'm not going to do it. We'll do it by ear. We'll do it by ear. Grab it by your ear and tell you what's up. So that's that. Let's check on our good friend Microsoft. This was the double bottom that we were playing. Make it a little thinner there. Like so. We are at the VWAP right now, right? This was the contention that we had in our way. If we break this VWAP, we could see a break and a retest for higher. If we fail at this VWAP, we might be coming back down to here, which would be not so good. This could be local support, or even maybe a little up there to make it a little more confident. Let's drop down in a minute. Ooh, I like that even better. That would be actually perfect to use this support. Using as this support would be a greater chance of breaking the VWAP, because now it has the VWAP as support and this zone. Now we go to the other scene. So like a detective, we visit one scene, we get an idea, we visit another scene to get another idea. And let's go back to Microsoft here. Just to reevaluate our levels. We should be above the 2-day VWAP, but what's in our way? We're at the VWAP now. What's in our way? The intraday. Don't sleep on the intraday. I mean the midpoint. Sorry, the midpoint. I did not give the midpoint as much as respect that it deserved. You don't give me any respect, you're not gonna see any back. So the midpoint is a support and resistance line. It's a calculation that uses the 2 sigma rule, but don't sleep on that. The intraday is the range for the day. It actually lines up with the previous technical high, 428. That's 2 points below our 430 goal. Where does 430 come from? 430 comes from the GEX. The GEX. The Bears. This is what kicked us off. This is what started this whole process, was these high GEX marks. 8,000. Still holding at 8,000. The higher 435 dropped down. The call volume spikes at 430. The absolute GEX is right where we are now, so we could theoretically finish the day fine there, but let's drill down a little deeper. Deeper and deeper. We'll pull up an advanced GEX to really get into the grapes and raisins in there. I don't think that's a real phrase. I just made that up. And we're going to uncheck all. You know what? Let's see what it looks like. Microsoft. So the overall on all expirations, there's a nice road paved up to 440? Yep, 440 exactly. And then a drop off. So I've come to learn a lot of people trade, and myself included, trade this drop off in liquidity as a resistance line. And if we turn on the absolute GEX, I would not be surprised to see absolute GEX somewhere in this area. It also could be down here, but we should see some attraction here. Now, I'm going to turn it on. Oh, plot twist. The absolute X is highest where we are right now. So what does this tell us? Does it tell us nothing's off? No, because we're using every possible expiration, right? Wait, why were none of them selected? Anyway, might be a glitch on my end. We're going to select this Fridays because that's where our interest is. We're playing this Fridays. I'm looking out on the other screen. We're breaking the VWAP right now. We are breaking VWAP. Right. So 430 still the highest GEX on the screen. Where we are right now is the highest absolute GEX value for the call volume. Still 430 like we said on the GEX feed. But now we can check the call open interest. Open interest is a little higher. Where we are now is the... Let's get in there. Look at that road. Nice paved road of open interest on the fives, right? 425, 430, 435. There's gaps in between. That's okay because it's not uncommon to see heightened interest around the fives. What's up, Styles? What do you watch if you are trading NQ? Oh, the futures. Futures are commonly discussed in Gold Chat. A lot of people use ES to kind of trade the SPY. As far as futures, there's not much data for gamma exposure, and that's what really QTA operates around, gamma exposure. But if you're able to, convert what trades on a stock ticker to an ES, like a SPY can be, you can trade the ES based on what the SPY's action is doing. If you can do that with the NQ, you can do that here. You can use the data, you can use the value and information for the SPY to get an idea on how to play the ES, or vice versa. They dance off of each other. That would be a great question, Kyle. Now that you're on the gold side, go into Gold Chat and type that question in here. There will be someone that would love to address that for you, for sure. So this is what I do. This is what I do every day. I open up, whether it be technical charts, whether it be the QTA chart or the GEX feed, and I keep cycling through. So for instance, if I open up and I go on to my GEX feeds in a day, I'll just start cycling through every one of these. I'll start with Tesla, go down to Apple, Amazon, NVDA, and see if there's anything that kind of stands out. And by stands out, I mean like a big move that could potentially happen. So this is Tesla. The highest GEX is where we are now. If, let's see in the beginning of the day if that was the same. Yeah, around 10 o'clock. If this value started changing, where this started becoming the higher GEX, and this was a lowering GEX, and the road started being paved, as I call it, these started increasing, and we had a nice road paved up, I would then double check on the absolute GEX to see if a possible shift would be happening, which would give us extra confluence, and I'd be interested in Tesla up to the 183 mark. Noticing that, okay, I now have theory for 183. I jump back to the technical, and Microsoft is beating the VWAP right now. I'm going to look for a back test on that. So what do we say, 183? Where does 183 stand? So I just had a little bit of a disconnect there. Hope everyone's back. And we're back. So I was going to say that there's a little bit of a wick here to give us that number 184. The real resistance should probably be around 182 and change. Yikes. Let's rest it right around there. Nah, I like it where it was. Yeah, 181. Technical. I see, yeah. Wick. I got it. Fair point. I'm talking to myself, sorry. So 181 would be your first target, and then 184 would be the higher one. There is some other technical stops along the way, maybe like here. Let's bring it down to the lower one. 176, 181, 184. If we're looking at a little wider view, we're on the bottom of a trend on Tesla, but an overall possibility to go all the way up to the 200s, right? We followed it up, we followed it down, just to give you an idea on the trend itself. Anyone who's been following me for a while knows that I trade Tesla a lot, hence all the lines. But we're in this channel right now. We followed it up, played it down. And I believe we started actively following it on this dive right here. And then after Thanksgiving, the run up. And then the dive down. And now we're going to play the run up. We were playing it here. It's hard to see, I'm sorry. There you go. We were playing this bounce, but we stopped. I think it was some type of catalyst, but we finished, we closed that gap, and now we're riding the bottom of the trend. So you can look at it as riding the bottom of this trend here. We don't need the line. You can perfectly see this trend. Riding the bottom of the trend, we can interpret that as it wants to break below it. Another way you can interpret it is that this trend is holding. It's very strong because it's tested it once, twice, 3 times. And now it's finding, instead of using the trend as support, it's finding a double bottom at 160.51 on the nose, right? 160.51 touched. 160.51 touched again. Same level price action, and the RSI is rising. Same level price action, RSI rising. And to give you a visualization of divergence, if anyone here is unfamiliar with divergence, you will become familiarized in the next 35 seconds. Maybe a little longer. You want to see pictures? I'll show you pictures. Divergence. Coming at you. Coming at you. So when we say the price action is flat and the RSI is rising, this is bullish. You see that? You see that? Price action flat, RSI rising. Price action flat, RSI rising. You have bullish divergence. That's just one piece of data telling us that bullish looks good. Then we can go back and we can test all our other data points that we looked at. The top of the trend was something like 220, but we're not looking at that just yet. That's not going to happen by Friday. Now watch Tesla go right to 220 by Friday. But people are starting to look up. Not today because it's eclipse day, but they are looking higher for Tesla. And let's just double check on our tech chart here. Microsoft is retesting the VWAP right now. And how did we plot out that move? This was the trajectory that we used. Does that match up the previous trajectory? No, it's a lot more conservative. Let's make it a little similar to the last run. And we'll match it with the last move here. That one doesn't really count. That's an entry. This last particular move, we'll use that. See how I match it up with that trajectory right there? And then I'm going to slide to the right. Slide to the left. Now we do the cha-cha. So if this move is expected to happen, it will take us until July 14th. My daddy has a birthday on July 14th. He comes back on July 14th. That's nothing I'm making up. That's a quote from Con Air. So, July 14th, we could possibly see 222. Keep those numbers in mind. We go back to our trusty, handy-dandy advanced GEX. Type in Tesla and see if anyone else sees what we see. 222 by July 14th. We're going to leave out this Friday and possibly actually next Friday also. All right, uncheck all. It just gives me the meats. So we're cutting out the appetizer and cutting out everything else we don't need. We want to see what we look at Oh, look at that. 200 absolute gex lines up with the highest gex. Well, maybe not the highest gex. This one says 8.9. This is the highest gex down here. But as far as that move is considered, a lot of people are seeing that. They're just selecting 200 because it's a psychological number. If you backtest Tesla on the gex charts, the absolute gex was at 200 for like the majority of 2024. It was at 200 when we were below it, and it was still at 200 when we were above it. So this data to me does not hold as much water as this does. This is a nice road, right? Every 5 we have 170, or every 10, 160, and then 150. A nice road paved to 150. Where's the absolute gex? So this is the highest one. We want to see where the next couple are. Oh, look at that. In contention for the highest gex is where we're just below, like 170, right where we are right now. The third highest and the fourth highest. This is an area of liquidity. I see down to be more of a possibility just by looking at this chart. And now let's put on the greatest hits. Put open interest. Boom, 150. Highest put open interest. The call should probably be 200, right? Yeah. That was not a shocker. Everyone wants 200 for Tesla. It's like there's no other number that exists. It's 200. When we were above it, everyone wanted 200. It's a little weird. So can it be trusted? Can it be trusted? I don't know. But he seems worthy. Okay. Sorry. Call volume. Hit me. Boom. 200. Right. Put volume. That's what I wanted. 150. So now we're getting a little bit of a picture. 150, 200 are the bookends, and we are right smack in between. And the absolute gex on one more time. Highest liquidity right in between. So until something changes, I will be on the waiting side of this. Because we don't have to trade every day. It's called day trading, not everyday trading, right? So we'll wait for something more to develop. Now we can go back to what to do immediately for Tesla. We'll take the next two Fridays. Or the most local 2 Fridays. Where's my water? Here it is. That's tasty. Tesla had a big move today already, a 5% move. 165 is the strongest, but look at all this a nice berry patch of positive data. Consistent. You can just knock these off. Pick. A nice trip up to 200. But it doesn't look very confident to me. There's a lot of call open interest around 200 too. Where's the put open interest? 150? Yeah. Call volume still at 200? 190. Okay. Absolute gex is right where we are, and a little more liquidity up to 180. So again, not enough information for me to think about taking any action, but it's stuff that we'll keep on the radar. Big put volume right here as support. So 165 looks like a possibility. What's 165 look like on the chart? Very doable, right? $165 was overnight low. Almost yesterday's low. No, yesterday's low was 160. Get it together. VWAP right below us. If this VWAP holds, we could see higher. If this VWAP fails, that 165 might be looking pretty interesting. And let's look at the overall. Just follow the flow, come up, get into resistance, come back down. That makes a little sense, right? You can see this frequency happening. Bottom, top, mid, higher top, bottom, mid. So it would make okay sense if we finish this pattern, come back down to 165. Again, this is not financial advice to signal a trade. I'm just, thinking out loud. And this is what you do until you find a trade or something that makes a lot of sense. I have this resistance up here, but this could very well sit right down here. This could be an outlier of a day. And second, you know, the first 2 hours it went up, the second 2 hours it came down. It makes a lot of sense that this could be resistance. So this is on the table. Clean this up a little bit. I got company. Break out the good cookies. I want to get rid of that line, and I will. I think this is max pain. I read that, right? Anyone remember what max pain was? 170. I'll trade you. I'll flip you. I'll flip you. Max pain, 170. How you doing? So does anybody have any questions on what I'm talking about? Anyone picking up what I'm putting down? Anyone have a ticker of an equity that we can look at and I can demonstrate how to use the tools for it? But this is, keep in mind, this is the way I use QTA tools. There are people that use it differently. This is, for the most part, I'm not like creating my own way of using it. This is the, you know, I did sit down and Brian showed me how he uses his tool, and I'm using it according to his, but I'm finding certain ways that I like better more than another way, you know, just a little fluctuation, a little more comfortability, you know. Our Microsoft trade is up 22% on paper. This double bottom is working out pretty good. This is the break of the VWAP, and now we're coming back to test it, and we're using that support that we mapped out, that line that just below the VWAP. We use this resistance here, kind of lining up with that area right there, and it came back, broke the VWAP, but this came up to be support. As this was breaking the VWAP, I was very excited. I was very, very excited to see that this would be another local support, adding an extra safety blanket if the VWAP broke. It did, and used this. Let's look at that, how it looked on the minute. Right, big volume bar break, 18,000, and then right back over it. This may come down, and now if this comes back down again and the VWAP holds, I will be happy. If we don't revisit it, that's fine. But instead of revisiting this line again, I want the VWAP to step up to the plate and say, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to hold the line, right? And then we're going to drop down to the 30 seconds for a minute. Remember the day in November. 425.11 is VWAP. So when we drop down to the 15s, there is no VWAP. Where we're going, we don't need VWAPs. I just saw Back to the Future, the musical, by the way. Amazing. Amazing. What did I say the VWAP was? I made a joke about 425.11. So I dropped down to the sub-minute just to get a better view of any patterns developing. So we had a down channel here, we broke above it, and now we're retesting it. If that's hard to see, I'll map it out here. Right, ran up, had a down channel, we broke it, came up, and now we're finding new support. New support, new support. Right? Resistance, resistance, resistance. Broke, retested. This is a strong line. Support, broke it, tested it, broke it, blah, 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 blah. You see what I'm saying? Now this is our good support. Where do we have to break next? We have to break 425.65. And once we break this, we should see this kind of action. Break, a retest, and a hold for higher. This is the action we want to see of this break, because this is an important high right here. Right? Where does this go back to? Oh, look at that. So that's been support. We broke it, and now we're retesting it again. This is a big deal. I have a big lunch. And the charts are different. Sub 1 minute, so I'm adding this now to the... What's the opposite of sub? So I have sub 1 minute. What's above 1 minute? I'm not sure. We didn't come here to learn your vernacular. We came here to know how you trade, how you do. Oh, how's it going? An old friend just reached out to me. I haven't spoken to her in a while. Maybe I should invite you by. Where is this? Hey, Hondo, what's going on, man? So, have you noticed that the market always likes to end the day around max pain? Actually, Styles, I find that I was mentioning this earlier, that max pain for me is less of a target for the market to end on expiration, but more so as support and resistance. And I'll get into that in a second. I'm just going to share this. The way I use max pain is more for support and resistance, and a good visualization for max pain, and this is for anyone that wants to follow along with what we're talking about here, is you go to maximum-pain.com. I was practicing that. How'd that come off? Is that good? Needs a little work. Hey, Joshua. Hey, what's going on? My man. Lots of people coming out. I've been away for a while. Yeah, I didn't really prep our plan on promoting this so much, but my afternoon freed up, so I popped on. I knew if I had a free afternoon and an eclipse outside, I'd be outside watching that thing like a hawk, but we're not. So maximum pain, for all intents and purposes, is the strike price, or the strike, where calls and puts together have the least amount of intrinsic value. And the best visualization I can find is this. This is MaximumPain.com. You can enter any ticker you want, and it gives you a readout of everything. So if you can see this, at 165 or 170, all these puts will lose, and all these calls will lose. So if the market maker, right, everyone, okay, here's the thing about... yeah, right, not outside staring at the sun. Yeah, I promised someone that I would close the blinds and stay inside. So, what is max pain? Max pain is this spot where calls and puts have the least amount of intrinsic value, and everyone believes that the market makers... I have to turn on my webcam for this because I'm going to start talking with my hands like a banana man. Doop. Boom. So max pain, right? Everyone believes that max pain is the area where the market makers want the price action to go so that everyone loses their money, right? The market maker collects all the monies that are lost on everyone else. That's not exactly true. The market makers, they're actually, think of it like this. If we wanted to buy 100 contracts for Tesla at 300, right? Let's get back to, where's the GEX here? Give me the GEX. Give me the GEX. Give me the loot. Give me the loot. Oh my God, that was Apple we were looking at? No, this just reset to it. Okay, gosh. This helps with visualizations, so bear with me. Oh, you know what? It's not, the max pain isn't on this one. All right, so let's go to the, perfect. Let's go to the Discord and pull up an even better visualization. Oh my God. By the end of the day, I'm going to say that word perfectly. Visualizations. It sounds like I had a couple scotches this morning for breakfast, but I didn't. So, on the quant trading app, we have Gex feeds. And here's the Tesla Gex feed. Max pain. This is what we were talking about. So if we wanted to buy 100 contracts for Tesla at 200, we trade in markets like the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, the American. This has the highest liquidity out of a lot of the other markets in the world. That's why it's mostly traded by people that just don't live in the United States. It's a worldwide market. But the reason why it's so liquid is because of the market makers. So if we wanted to buy one contract of Tesla at 200, we have this thinking that we're going to buy a contract and someone on the other end is going to sell it to us, and now we are in this one-to-one contract with John Smith on the other side of the world. And if I win, he pays me. If he loses, he keeps my money that I gave him. That's not the actual case, because if we wanted to get 100 contracts of Tesla at 200, there's not one person on the other end that's like, I want to sell 100 contracts of 200. Oh, look at this. Someone out there just happens to want to buy them. Let's link up. What happens is, in between that are the market makers. So if we want to buy 100 contracts of Tesla at 200, the market maker are the ones that pick up the phone. We're not going to get the exact price we want, but we're going to get a price. They're going to be able to take that on. And then what they do is they put it on their books, and then they go out and they find people to fill that. So for that small time being, it's on their books. They're on the open books, and that's where you kind of get the term like open interest. So you think of it like that. These high spots or open interest that we can highlight them on the other chart. That's areas that the market makers would really like that if those were filled. So if you think of it that way, that the price wants to travel where there's the most liquidity, that makes a lot more sense than that the price wants to travel where there's going to be the most max pain. But instead, you can use max pain as a support and resistance line, because really that's where the most of the calls and puts have the least intrinsic value. That's the flip right there, that line. So you can use max pain as more of a support and resistance. And to really further your question, you can start using, now that you're a gold member, you can start using absolute GEX in the same way I myself used to think of, and a lot of other people used to think of max pain as a target or as a finishing point. And now that you're on the gold side, you can backtest. Backtest all you want to see how many times we closed at max pain versus how many times we closed at the absolute GEX. And we'll just take Friday Tesla, for instance. Friday Tesla, we closed, absolute GEX is 165. We closed right above it at like 165.57. Max pain was at 172.5. And when we can go back another week and match that up. We don't have to do that. We can do the SPY 0 DTE and find out that way. So we'll look on Friday for SPY. And then we'll just plug in my theory. This is the 8th still. We want the 5th, right? Hang on, Voltaire. You went too far. The 4th. Oh, that's right. Now that you're on the gold side, you have to know is SPY 0 DTE on Fridays, the 0 DTE are the weeklies. So for 4 days a week, you can look at SPY 0 DTE to play that. On Fridays, there's only one, because this Friday expiration is the 0 DTE. Fair enough? So on this Thursday, we closed at 519.72. Absolute GEX was 519. Max pain was 518. And on the Friday, using the weekly, we'll get there. I'm going the wrong way. It's like getting lost in the forest. You just start going one way until you realize that you've gone the wrong way for too long. 518 was absolute gex, and we closed at 518.17. Max pain was 517. So if you get to use or get more accustomed using absolute gex as a price target or price action target, more so than max pain, you might have a better day. But don't take my word for it. Reading Rainbow. No, use these as they are, not signals or not absolutes, even though it's absolute gex, but use them as clues. Use them as data points to apply into a larger picture. And I keep going back to using that detective analogy, but you want to find a clue, you find the murder weapon, and then you find a suspect, and you can place the murder weapon and the suspect at a point in space and a point in time, and then you have yourself a case to hand over to the DA. So use this as a clue to build a case, not as a pure trading suggestion. I hope that makes sense. Now that we're live here, let's see what I'm looking at. The SPY here. SPY right now, we're hovering around max pain. And again, this goes to that theory. Max pain is the now support and resistance. We're dancing on both sides of that. We have the call volume right above it. The put volume was right below. Oh, that was on the 0DT. The put volume on the today's expiration is right around here. And we're dancing around this 519. I think the max pain for today was 519 as well. So we have the same. Is that possible? I mean, it's very possible, but max pain today is 518. Absolute is 519. And I'm going to make a little wager that we're going to close at 519. Actually, I said that earlier, right? I was going to do an iron butterfly on paper for 519. That was based on the 519 weekly max pain, but the absolute 0 DTE is coming through like gangbusters to let us know that's where that's going to happen. So if we shut this off here on Microsoft, we got ourselves a little hot dish situation. Hot dish is I used to call it the waiter's arm. So here you have the waiter's arm, the extending, he's carrying himself. He's got himself. The police have themselves an RV. All that really means is that it's a pattern that I like to use when I was teaching to show that you get a visualization of someone carrying a dish more so than a stick with a couple of U's on it. You know, it's a little more fun to go down that road. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's too cheesy. I'm not sure. What are you going to do? So a hot dish situation usually ends up being a bullish outcome, right? You have the arm, and you have a dish or a little bit of consolidation, and then a pop coming after it. The pop works just like your typical flag. You'll have a pole, or the run-up. Actually, it probably should come from here. Let's not get crazy. Let's not do anything rash. This is the pole running into the consolidation. This should be the continuation after. This puts us well in the journey, or well on our journey. We're on our way to make a new high of day. I don't know if we're going to do that today. I don't know if we're going to do that. We might not have time. I'm going to go to Home Depot. You know, maybe a little TJ Maxx. You know, I don't know if we'll have time. We might not have time. But a nice day planned. A nice day. All right, I'll do one. Sorry, I have to preface, but I quote more movies than I do probably speaking regular English, or just any original thought is replaced by movies. I had movies on when I was doing homework as a kid. It was just something that's ingrained in my head. So, if you hear me quoting something that doesn't sound quite like it fits, it's probably from a movie. And you look it up, you can get a prize. No prizes yet. I do have a wheel. I have a prize wheel, and I'm dying to use it. I'm collecting advertisers or sponsors, as you will, to try and support this. But that's step 10, and we're just now on step 2. Step 1 was impromptu live today by the one and only Kaylin, who I don't think even showed up. Kevin, you in here? Hey, Kyle. Sorry for asking if you already explained, but what is absolute gex? Is that the average of the gex? Very helpful in understanding. Sure, absolute gex. We can look up the definition, but in order. So if you understand gamma exposure, you look up the definition. It's the amount needed to move the underlying by 1 point in relation to the delta. How does that compute? How do you make sense of that? All we need to know is how to trade with it, right? Similarly to absolute gex. Absolute gex is the point of the highest liquidity. That's not to rule out that the high gex is also a point of high liquidity, but solely on the fact that absolute gex is another value to measure where there is extreme liquidity. And to get a better understanding of absolute gex, it comes across as one strike, one value on the gex feeds. You'll have this one purple line. It's not static like max pain. Max pain is static. On a 0 DTE, that max pain for that day is for that day. It doesn't change until you can look back at it. The max pain for the week stays static the entire week. So the max pain on Tesla will stay at, forget it, it doesn't matter what it is, right? It'll stay static. The absolute gex will shift based on call volume, call open interest, put volume, put open interest. All these are factored in to find the area with the absolute gex along with the gamma exposure lines or values themselves. So here you have a mound or a mountain, really, and I'll attribute that here, right? Almost like a head and shoulders, but this is a very wide but very centralized or specific zone hovering right around 172.5. This to me tells me that this is a very high sticky area of liquidity. So we kind of want to hang around in this area, and if we turn on the net gex, if there's the most gex there, this adds to that high liquidity. This would lead someone to start thinking of an iron condor, or if you really want to get really crazy, an iron butterfly. Not saying that's what you should do, but these are the values, these are the data points that spark that type of thinking. When you're looking at absolute gex, you're looking at where the price wants to hang out. It's where it feels the most comfortable. It's 98.6 degrees of a perfect temperature, and that's where it wants to hang out. As you start seeing that value shift, you can come back and check on it, and you see these values grow higher. You know, say around 182.5, the absolute gex might look like it's getting higher. This might start dwindling down as the price action hangs around here, and more people are trading back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's eating up this liquidity. This high gex will drop, and then we'll also notice the call open interest, and that should be a little higher. Let's see what that is. That's the put. I want the call open interest up here. We were looking at this earlier, or maybe yesterday, 182.5 as a point of secondary interest. And if we remove everything and see the absolute gex by itself, this is the secondary interest on absolute gex as well. So now we can start making the case that this is the biggest area of interest, and the secondary area of interest is this 182.5. Even on the call volume, it's high at 175, but even the second highest is around 180 leading up to it. So we'll watch these, keep these in mind, and play accordingly. Now, you have to apply everything that we just spoke about to your own trading style. Someone might use the Friday expirations, but trade specifically in a 0 DTE format, meaning they don't hold money overnight. Someone might trade Tesla using Friday's expiration, but be in and out of it on a day trade. Your entry and your exit and your time of holding is going to vary than the other person sitting next to you or the other person in the community, which is what blows my mind all the time when people would drop these, these entries like, I'm buying Tesla at, 170 and I'm going to be out at 175. Well, when? What, are you holding this for 2 months? Are you holding this for 2 minutes? Like, I'd buy calls here for, okay, I'm buying calls. All right, if you're not out of the calls, you're doing it wrong. I just got in it. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to learn how to use these tools yourself and apply them to your own trading style. It does not compute any other way, you know? So I'm sorry if I got a little heated right there, but I'm getting out of control. But it gets a little passionate sometimes. Microsoft, by the way, is doing perfectly what we wanted it to do. Off this double bottom here, we came up to the VWAP, we broke it, we came back and we retested it, and now let's follow up to see just how we were talking about to you, Kyle, about how to monitor the shift of some things throughout the day. So we're gonna plot in the Microsoft here. And I think my water is broken. Not my water, that sounded bad. I think my water is not working correctly. Because I drink the water, but I don't get that refreshing feeling. Thank you guys, by the way, for coming. If you haven't already, hit like and subscribe. I think you have to subscribe in order to chat. If you were trying to chat and you ran into a problem, if you hit subscribe, you're then allowed to chat. It's to block the spammers that come around. And also be careful if you're going to be joining the Discord. By the way, you can join it at quanttradingapp.com, or you can find it in Discord however you like. And if you want to try it out for the first month, you can use this code as a thank you for coming today. You can use DNOW30. It gives you 30% off your first month. And you can find me in there and come hang out in Gold Chat at Quant Chat and learn how you do it. Make sure you absolutely love it before signing up for the annual. And I really do stress the annual is the way to go because it's the most economical. So getting back to what we're talking about, Microsoft, we want to see if there's any update on our GEX. And keep in mind, Microsoft is one of the ones that is offered on the Gamma Exposure Chart channel right here. You can click on it. And maybe that'd be a better idea because I want to see how it's increasing and decreasing. Did we see any change in the absolute GEX throughout the day on Microsoft? Let's start at the beginning. Maybe 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, the absolute GEX was 425, and that's right around where the price action was. Now the price action retreated back down to 423. Now we're coming back up above it. This is the latest one. Still nothing really changed. This one at 430, this GEX has risen above 8 million. The secondary GEX is closing in on it, but I don't think that's much of a change. This is interesting. I don't remember seeing this earlier, and that's the beauty of the GEX feed. We can just simply look back at the last snapshot, right? So this is the one in question. This little spike right here, and look, it wasn't there previously. So absolute GEX is here. Oh no, it is. It's right here. What am I talking about? Yeah, it's there. So sorry to interrupt, but it's still playing out. I still like that, and even though it's not a perfect road, it is. It's a little bit of a higher GEX, and then a big jump to a higher GEX. It's not a full empty gap, and there's no negative GEX in here. If this little negative jaunt was out of place on this side, I would think of that as a bit of a wall, right? A bit of an obstacle to overcome. Similar to what the VWAP was. The VWAP was our only obstacle to overcome. And just to refresh our memory, when we're looking at the quant chart on Microsoft, I played it off of the technical level right here rather than waiting for it to hit max pain and use that as support. I went a little guns blazing and jumped the gun a little bit, and I played it a little overconfidently through the 2-day VWAP and now playing it through the VWAP. That just comes with experience and you know, a little bit of a gut instinct, but normally you'd like to use the VWAPs and the levels as support and resistance and play them accordingly. I did mention one strategy that if you believe, so this is what I said in the beginning. I was playing the double touch or the double bottom, whatever you, new high or low, whatever you want to call it. I was playing that move off that technical bottom, and I was playing it. I lost my train of thought now. Right, I was playing. So in other words, a lot of people would say, wait till it breaks the VWAP, wait till it breaks and retests that, then you could take that trade, break the VWAP, and go higher. Well, if I'm waiting for that entry and we're moving in that direction anyway, I'll get in with my position at 20%. Now, as we travel up to the VWAP, I can get my full position on discount. because I'm already in that position 20%, and when we get up here, I'm already in profit. Does that make sense? So if you get in 20% at the technical level, maybe another 20% here as we conquer this level, and then when we get into our full position, we now have 40% of our position at a lower price or lower premium than we would at this level. So that's one way to play the direction you're going into without risking your full bankroll, your full risk allotment, I should say, into a position that hasn't fully come to fruition yet. Now that we broke this VWAP, now that we broke this midpoint, the next target for me is right here, this technical level at 427.30. We're not going to get there today. Well, we have 21 minutes left, and we're just dropping on the Microsoft right now. I just took a look. We're dropping back to test this support, and it looks like that might be failing. So we might be headed back to VWAP. If I was not hosting live, I would have gotten out at that level right there. I haven't, so we're going to hang on to see if it flips around, and maybe I put that level a little too high. Let's see if it uses that. And now this as volume comes in to later in the day, this might actually get that doggy moving. And if we see a spike up to here, I'm just going to take profit and then play, or maybe trim. I think I'm going to trim and then leave some overnight. All on paper trading, by the way. Everything we're talking about is on paper trading. I have to stress that a lot. Because today's target was just that, to revisit the all-time, the new high of day, not to break it. Right now it's up 26%. The more I hesitate, the more I'm just going to end up holding on anyway. Seeing Carol here. This is where I use the vortex the most. The vortex is simply a plus and a minus symbol. When the blue's on top, you're in an up channel. As the blue travels back to the zero barrier, you'll have a downward move, downtrend. When the gold crosses and comes above it, then you're in more of a downtrend. If we see a bounce right here, if the blue bounces off the gold, you should see a nice move up. The best way to play the vortex is when you see a bounce off of each other, and you can easily backtest that further, but we might see a cross here. This looks like it's coming back to VWAP. I didn't expect that quick flush there. Now that might be even better. If we get a nice bounce off the VWAP, a lot of people play the VWAP. So if they're waiting for a VWAP revisitation to get into their play, if everyone's seeing the same 430 we are, they might be waiting to see if the VWAP holds to find out that strength. I was actually saying a revisit to the VWAP over here would solidify that the VWAP is now holding up rather than failing over here and had to resort to this support. A hold here would be a very healthy outlook. A very healthy outlook if you're bullish. I know I got a little tongue-tied explaining that, but I hope that was all right. Kevin, I'm so happy to hear that your prayers will be answered. It is a very emotional day when this strange thing happens in the sky, that the gods take away our light. They rob us of our sun, and we don't know why it's happening. We don't know why it occurs only once in a random time. We think it has something to do with the donuts. Sometimes there's a raspberry donut that's not available, and every time the raspberry donut's not available, this thing happens with the sun. So we can't put our fingers on why it's happening, but every so often the sun disappears from our sky, and it lets us know that we are this small. Kyle, that's awesome. I like to anger the gods every so often to let them know that I'm here. I'm bouncing around, you know? And I do like that how me and Kevin can talk about the silliness. And meanwhile, Kyle's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I'm just making money over here, so you guys can keep flapping your lips over something. But he's over there making bills. Son. What we're seeing here is a test of the VWAP. Those new trade alerts from QTA are awesome. Yeah, what Kevin is talking about is the new SPX trade engine. I'm not really ready to speak on it. It's still in the beta phase, and what that means by beta is it's an evolving, it's a learning new entity. It's a new member of QTA, really. And what they'll do is the entity will alert us when there are conditions ripe for iron condors or butterflies, and it will tell you. You know what? Let me just bring it up. Let me show you something. It looks like that VWAP's holding. So, for instance, and it says here beta, right? Momentum call credit spread. Strike 52.15, price 0.9, prior for target 45 cents, stop loss 1.8, estimated margin. So we are risking 90 to make 45. You can get 10, you can get 5, you can get 20, whatever the case is. And then it lets you know when it wants to close it. It's still learning, right? So these are placing these trades on paper, and it's learning as it's going. And this is Brian commenting on it. Last week was very volatile, right? You had an up day, a down day, a straight day, a down day, you know, whatever the case is. It really put that trade engine through its paces, and it now knows a very volatile week. So it's only going to get better as time goes on, and that's why it's still under the category as beta. But one day, maybe we will graduate it to alpha. But in the meanwhile, people are really enjoying it. Someone did ask if it's going to be at one point in time connected to an account and be able to trade for you. That's not going to be made available to anyone public because there's just too much liability behind it. I know Bryant is connecting it to an account, but he takes full responsibility over that. I mean, there could be a small bug or glitch and something like that, and no one wants to be responsible for it. No one got time for that. No one wants to be responsible for anyone. And there should always be, you should always have your own hands on your own money, you know. And that sounded kind of creepy. I apologize for that. That's my fault. Now I'm kind of kicking myself. I didn't take that. Oh no, it's still at 20. How's it still at? So I'm just realizing that today is Monday and Theta is operating very, very slowly. I was thinking that 21% would now be down to like 15, but it's still holding at 21%. Now it's 21.29. All from that breaking of this, it was at 22, now it's at 21. So a hold at this VWAP would be very nice and bullish. 425.11, right? 425.15. Let's see how we're looking at the 15. And this is how I do day trading all the time. I'll pop down to the 15 second to see if we can see a pattern of reversal happening here. Because on the 1 minute, it was looking like, okay, the VWAP might be breaking, but if it popped down to the 15 second, and we can start seeing this pattern leading up to a possible reversal. It's not that we're watching it on high speed, it's just that we're zooming in to get more candles out of one. It's a big miscue for a lot of people that think, oh, I like to trade on the 15 seconds because it's faster. It's not. It's the same action. You're just getting more information. You're just zooming in. That's really all it is. So keep that in mind, too. If you're popping down sub 1 minute, I would not like to hang out there and trade all the time. Meanwhile, I'm spending more than a minute below it. That's all right, though. I'm a professional. 425, what did I say, 15? We broke it by a penny. So now we're going to look at the vortex here. We're going to watch the blue. We want the blue to cross the gold. And if that happens, we'll see it pop up. Let's see how that plays out live. Live here on WDOC. All in, Microsoft. Mortgage that house, baby. Take a second one out. Go for it. Press your luck. No, do not do that. So to recap the Microsoft trade for our, what were you out, being a good father again? Is that your excuse for not being here live? Pfft, some excuse. I just hope you all used your glasses. I mean, the ones specifically made to look at the gods robbing us of our beautiful light. This was the play here on Microsoft. Came down, we made a bottom, came up, not yet reached the VWAP, came down again, it made a new higher low, which is a bullish double bottom. The entry was here. I think I had a position from last week. Regardless, this is the new play right here. Play it up. The idea was to take it as when it broke VWAP to go higher, but the idea was, hey, why not get in 20% here going into this? If we get rejected, we will make a little bit of profit on that 20% of position. If we break it, we have part of the position on bargain. Now, that was the play technically. The clue that clued us in was the Microsoft had GEX levels at I think 430, 435, 430 right there, and then 435. Similarly, it was like this in the morning. Call volume spikes at 430, so that might be our ceiling. At least that would be our first profit-taking target. And this is the weekly expiration, keep in mind, even though this play was to be done in 0DT, or at least take profit. And my eyes were a little bigger than my stomach. I was expecting to retest the high of day, but we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it. 9 minutes left in the day, 59 degrees, partly cloudy, an eclipse is happening. Fun times at the circus. Would this be something of interest if we did this again sometime, everyone? Just give me a yes or a no in chat, or a why if you're into the whole brevity thing. And we can set this up again. I want to possibly make this like maybe like a Tuesday, Friday, or a Wednesday, Friday thing. Jeremy's on board. All right, Jeremy, you get first seats, first selection, first dibs. Oh, we're really testing this VWAP here. He look like a man. We may have to blast. We might want to take this profit. I'm not trusting this VWAP overnight. I'm not even trusting it right now. Hold it. Hold it. I think it heard me say I don't trust it. That's a little tactical move I have there. All right, Kevin's on board in the afternoons. That means we get our comic relief. It's hard to get a ticket. Hard to get a ticket for Funkmaster Flex Night. I like everyone's sense of humor here. When I say that, I mean we all have one. Oh yeah, break that. Break that. So in the last 7 minutes, we should see volume increase. We had a nice bounce off the VWAP. I'm betting there are a number of signals that go out when the VWAP is tested on stocks that people are looking at or watching, what have you. Bounce off the VWAP in the last 10 minutes, could see something. This would be a little more, exciting if it was a Friday and theta was really moving. So any big move would make a lot more sense, but right. That makes me remember to tell you that today's music is brought to you by Upbeat. That's Upbeat. It is a free, I guess, right? Well, they have a paid version of it, but Upbeat provides the music that you're hearing in the background today. Contrary to what everyone's thinking, that's not me playing in the background. I know you're all thinking that was an original song, but it's not. SPX, I know Kyle was playing that earlier. I don't cover SPX as much as other people do, and I guess I'll apologize for it, but I don't apologize for not trading it. I've seen more people blown out by SPX than I hear of good things. But if you're successful at it, that's great. I'm not telling anyone not to trade it, but I'd just rather focus on other things like Microsoft breaking the VWAP, like I was worrying that it might. So this broke VWAP and broke our only support. I'm going to take the 14% profit as long as it lets me cut it here. Get there. Cut it. Or should I hold it? Cut it. It's not letting me take a... I'm just going to market it. Market it. Lady SPX strikes again. All right, Kevin. So what happened, right? Let's rewind and find out what happened to Microsoft right now. Because we were all on board for this 430 train. I just realized I said on board and train the same note. Technical analysis supersedes lots of moves. Sometimes it supersedes a company doing very well. The technical analysis might blow that out of the water and say, listen to me first. The idea of VWAP is so important that it overshadows other things. So a loss of the VWAP is more important than a GEX 5 points away. And where was the max pain again? All right, excellent. I would take those wins and take it to AC where you can really have a good chance. No, just kidding. Ups and downs, ebbs and flows, right? Just like anything. See how this plays out. Oh, I can dig this. DXYZ recently? Am I missing that? Am I missing the joke? I know I am. I'm trying to circle back to where I came up with, or where I heard DX. Is that a reference to D's nuts? So 2 minutes to closing. If you're thinking of holding anything overnight, or you want to close it before you end up holding it overnight, this would be it. Oh, that's an actual ticker. Oh, okay. Let's pull it up. I thought there was a joke behind it. Destiny. I'm your density. My density has popped me to you. I mean, my destiny. Ooh. I was holding another one, AVTX, that went 333% last week. Where's that? From 4 to like 34. I didn't have a really big position in it. I was actually holding it knowing this was going to happen, but I have to try and get into the thought process of it's not worth it to get into these stocks anymore. You know, chasing down these well, this is pretty new. That's amazing. I mean, there's no data to go on here. This is all sentiment and fundamental. This is like you hang out in what is that? StockTwit or Wall Street Bets and try and gain what's going on. What's the float? Whoa, okay. Yeah, this is, be careful of this. Free float is 9 million. So this could be heavily manipulated at will. But this is a meteoric rise, as they say, huh? This will go down in history as the eclipse stock. No, it won't. No one will ever call that. Crazy. It is now 4 p.m. And let's watch this right now after hours. We'll circle back to this a second. I'm feeling a pop coming on. All these, when you have a brand new stock on a run, after hours is sometimes something to watch. And if not after hours, then pre-market. We'll circle back to that. So let's recap what happened to Microsoft today, right? We had the double bottom, and then we saw that there was an attraction up toward 430. We had, in the way, we had the new high of day 427. That was going to be our goal for the day. This is going to be just a 0 DTE. No, I should say just a day trade because it's not 0 DTE. It's Friday DTE. Friday E. So, double bottom, saw the attraction higher. The VWAP was in a way. We got in 20% below. The idea was to get in full position after the break of VWAP. I did not do that because we went live. Then, the idea was to get out if we broke VWAP. I did not do that. I got out down here. That's human nature. That's what happens, especially when I'm live. I don't stick to my rules. That's why I have a note on my desk that says never trade live again. So I'm great at spotting them as they come, but I can't handle my own portfolio at the same time. All right, Kevin. Peace. We'll probably do this again. This was a lot of fun. I do have a couple sessions tonight. When I mean sessions, I do one-on-one sessions for anyone that you've been trading for a long time and you're slipping a little, you want to trade better. That's great. I work with traders that have been trading since 2005. I'm just doing this about 20 years ago. The brand new traders, we start from scratch. We start from wherever you learned from, YouTube videos or whatever. We find out what you know, find out how you can apply that going forward, and fill in the blanks if you missed any. If there's any areas that you want to learn for like spreads, or if you're trading 2 months at a time, you want to start getting into 0 DT, we can do that. Hit me up. It's doc@101 stocks, or you can leave a comment below. Definitely hit like and subscribe if you guys got an extra couple seconds. It really helps out with the they say it helps out with the algorithm, I guess, but it helps me out, right? Just that's it, because we want to start building this up. I haven't even begun to advertise yet. And consider joining us over at Quant Trading App. QuantTradingApp.com. There's a fantastic public chat area. Make sure you select that you're interested in learning more about the gold features, and you'll be included in the enthusiast chat, which I post when I'm not live. And if you do want to join up right away, just make sure you use the code DNOW30, and then you'll be on your way. Home sweet home. But I guess I'm going to hang out here for another couple minutes if you guys can think of any other questions that are on your mind. But I still have to start wrapping up and prep for sessions. And I am starving. I am hungry. I should get something to eat before we start. Also, if you have any ideas or things that you'd like to see in this programming that you're watching right now, comment below. We'll get around to it. If it's something that we can do, I'll definitely do it. I'm always looking to do it, to incorporate new things. We're working on some conferences. One's going to be in Phoenix. One's going to be in New York City. The Phoenix one is planned for June. Tentative date, August. But New York City is to be determined. If you're interested in that, drop me a line or hit me up in comments. And we'll get you included and updated it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do seminars. We're going to do workshops. We're going to do a little socializing, finding out how other people trade, using different tools, different strategies. And it's all about having fun while protecting your capital at the same time. I was going to say making money, but we're not here to make money, right? We're here to protect our capital. We're here to save money. That's what we're doing. The stock market is here to save money and grow it, right? We're going to grow money. We're not here to gamble and make money. So once you have that understanding, we're going to be a lot better off. You can sense that I'm trailing off, right? I'm trailing. The solar eclipse is sucking the life force out of me. Either that or I just need a sandwich. We'll find out right after this. No, but I really do. Seriously, guys, thank you so much for coming. Hit like, subscribe, comment in there. If you have any questions, you can reach me on Discord, or you can just contact me at doc@oneononestocks.com. It's literally the numbers. It's not the words. So I'll type it out here. doc@one-on-one. And also, this is quant trading app. And just for kicks and giggles, if you have any interest in using the platform I'm trading with, this should come up as a link and not anything more. YouTube redirect. We don't want to redirect. We want prenup. We want prenup. I will get this to you in just a jiff. Yeah, just a second. Just a sec. So these are all the links below there. doc@101stocks.com, quanttradingapp.com, and for WeBull, click that link. You can sign up using this. Use the platform that I'm using here today, and you get, like, I don't know, I think it's 10 or 30 shares, fractional shares, something like that. But you get the platform that I'm using here today. Any questions, put them in the comments or reach out to the email. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And I hope to see you guys here either tomorrow or Sunday this week. And we're gonna keep this momentum going. Thanks a lot, guys.